When I read the title of your book, This One Wild and Precious Life, one thing that comes to me is, and this is something I think about a lot on my own. I actually have a little sticker on my computer here that says you are going to die. And not in a sick, not in a sick way, but as a reminder every day of how we only have one wild and precious life and to live it to the max. So for you, is that something you think about a lot, death and let that be a motivator to you to live life to the fullest?
Absolutely. I have a phrase that drives all my friends mad. When a conversation gets a bit kind of ridiculous and indulgent or whatever, I go, or, somebody's trying to justify a decision that they've made. I'm like, oh, well, we've only got 85 years on this planet, right? Like, live it wildly and boldly and bodaciously. And I say that all the time when people are sort of talking about, I'm like, got 85 years on the planet. Like, does it matter? Like, let's max this. I use that exact phrase as well. And we've got to keep pulling back. I like the idea of having a note on your computer screen. Yes, we are going to die. Now, we can either find that frightening and cocoon ourselves from it and run for it and have addictions and avoidant techniques and distractions. And then dot, 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 we reach our 70s and our hips are too tight to even play lawn bowls, dot, 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 then we die. Like, that's not the existence that I want. We have a fundamental choice here. Do we want to sit on the conveyor belt and just exist? Or do we want to thrive and really I can't find any other way to live life to the max except for being of service, like building and making things better. And then to see with a beautiful curiosity how it unfolds, right? If I do this, what can it do over here? I mean, I find a lot of other things quite boring. I don't like dinner parties. I don't like catching up for drinks in the afternoon. There's so many things I don't really enjoy doing, but what I really enjoy doing is the creative sport of watching the dots join up and you ultimately want it to be a thing of growth. That's what humans are. We are yearners. We reach onwards and upwards. We are not we're not we're not beings that kind of disintegrate into a quagmire, so yeah, our mortality has motivated philosophers and scientists and thinkers throughout the years, the ages. And so I think it's a great motivator.
I don't think there's a greater one. And I don't really know of another way other than having like some kind of sticker or something in your physical presence that reminds you of it on a daily basis because as we all know, life gets busy and we get caught in these habit loops and going through the day, so many of the things we all do day in, day out are the same as the day before. So how do we pull ourselves out of that and get into the present moment and make the most of our interactions with family and friends thinking about that? And again, 85 years, that's like a good estimate of what we have these days. So it goes by so quickly.
Oh, and it's about 20 years more than it used to be only 100 years ago. Like, your life expectancy was 65. So look, some of the techniques in my book speak to that. Like, I talk about going to your edge, living life at the edge. And we have a life that kind of protects us, once again, cocoons us from the edge, shelters us from, we have nets on trampolines and we have signs if there's a gap in the footpath. Like we because of the opulence and the economic growth around the world, we have become the least innovative generation ever. So innovation has just gone down like this over the last 30 years, as sort of technological kind of cocooning has gone like this. So the two are correlated. And the best things in life happen when we go to some kind of uncomfortable edge. That's where life really happens. And I talk about the idea of how sometimes to buck that, you've got to get yourself into a bit of trouble. And I'm not saying this is for everyone, but I know I've always needed this. I've always needed to use physical danger, slight physical danger, to wake myself up. It's like what you were saying before. The COVID crisis has been the jolt that has got us reassessing things. And at a micro level, I do that. Like, I took up ocean swimming. Now, I am the worst swimmer in the world. I never had swimming lessons, which is unusual here in Australia. I had them when I was really little, but I never got to be a good swimmer. And I was just in a funk. So I was like, right, what can I do that's going to scare me? You know? And I think there's a phrase, I think might have been Eleanor Roosevelt said, do something every day that scares you. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt. And so I took up ocean swimming. I used to go to sort of an ocean pool and do laps slowly. I was like, no, going to jump off the rocks and swim across the headlands. And where I live, there's a shark detector a fair way out. So I just make sure I was in from the shark detector, but I was out beyond the surfers. And so I sort of took that up. And every now and then when I need to sort of kind of jerk myself up a bit, I go off and do that. Or I go and hike and I look, if children are listening at home, please do not do as I say. But I hitchhike. And I've hitchhiked around the world right up until this age. And, you know, it's a form of going to my edge. I go camping and I'll go and find some rocky outcrop in the middle of nowhere and set up my tent. And I have fear for sure, but it's a beautiful kind of fear. And what happens, and I talk about this in the book, is we go into a space where we fend. We have to create out of nothing. We've got to find a way to get our way through. I'll do a hike where I know there's no chance that I'm going to be able to get back in a day, you know, and I know I'm going to have to kind of come up with something creative, you know, and generally involves hitchhiking. So yeah, I think there's opportunities for us to do that. We can do it on a small level. We can walk down the street and we see somebody crying on a park bench, go over to them, a stranger, take the risk and say, hey, are you okay? Sit down with them. You know, the other day I saw a homeless man on the train, and I know sometimes they just sit on the trains just to sort of be part of something. And a lot of people got up and moved from him because I think he had a rather strong smell going on. And I stayed seated. He'd sat down sort of close to me and we ended up chatting, and he had this incredible life story and that kind of thing. And it was uncomfortable. I've got a very strong sense of smell, so it was deeply uncomfortable. But gosh, it was galvanizing. You know, it was beautiful. It was like I had to get off the train and I just said, you know, thank you. That was an awesome conversation. We sometimes have to choose to get into a bit of trouble to go to our edge to start to see things with a fresh perspective. It might even mean walking a different way to, you know, the bus stop each day or whatever it might be. Mix it up, you know, sleep at the other end of the bed, as Gretchen Rubin said.
I like that word, the edge. And I think it's different for everybody. Somebody who's new to this, maybe it's just saying hi to a stranger as they're walking by them, or just simple basic things like you said, and then you can work your way up over time.
Yeah. And then you'll just be a really annoying person like me who will go and just talk to anyone and strike up sort of a vulnerable conversation that they don't know that they really want to get into, but they go there anyway. So, yeah, you can sort of dial it up as you get used to it.